Hey everyone, it's Connor back from This Old Farm, and well, we're kind of starting this video off backwards. We're having to start it at the end essentially. So look what's behind us, the Super M's home. So we just got back pretty much from driving it all the way back to Kenny's. You'll see some videos here coming up, and well, you know what? Let's let you see that, and then we'll come back and we'll talk to you at the end after you've watched them all. So, enjoy the clips that are coming your way. Well, I won't spoil it, but, goodbye, Kenny's! The Super M's on its way out. Woohoo! Just to explain what Dad's doing there, he had heard from a couple mechanics before that if you rev it up and then idle it down and then, rev it up, keep kind of doing that every so often, supposedly it's supposed to help seat the rings. So that's what he's trying to do. He idles it down and then brings it back up and runs it for a little bit, then idles it down and brings it back up. Keeps doing that, but she's running good. Try taking some more video for you guys. Maybe you can hear it through the cab or through the truck here. Well, it probably won't be perfect, but if I get you outside of the cab, then it's too windy. So it's working good. Pretty much just minor issues. Fuel issue. It's got crud in the tank, so it's we've had to stop twice now and blow back through the fuel line to get some crud out of the sediment bulb and fuel line and stuff. We'd get choke on, and then it would kind of run okay, and then it started to be where you were full choke and it was still puttering out. So then we'd stop, blow out the fuel line, and then once we did that, started it back up. It's teenage kids and their freaking noisemakers. Once we'd blow through the line, and we fired it back up, then it would run fine again. So, but we're back in the stomping grounds. We're back in its old stomping grounds. So, I'll bring you guys back when we're driving into the farm, pulling in. Alright, here we are, final stretch. There's the farm on the left. Oops, I'm tapping things on my touchscreen. Once we've slowed down and are out, I'll put the camera back outside the cab so you guys maybe can hear but don't get wind noise. It's really tough steering that thing. Maybe I can stick it sort of up close to the cab. It is, it's back home. until it's even running.
It's really good when you get fuel in it.
Look, it's barely even moving the cap. Even with that crummy old muffler that was on Marty DM, it still is really quiet too. It's pretty quiet too. Alright, so now that you've watched them all, there he is. He's back home. We got him back. There was a couple issues, and I should have had the camera flipped around. Why didn't I flip it around? The first issue is relating to this little masterpiece here, the carburetor. And actually, it's not the carburetor itself. It's actually more so this masterpiece, the gas tank. There is a little bit of crud in there that is getting into the fuel line, and just checking for leaks. We've been having issues getting this thing to quit leaking and stuff, but what we were having trouble with on the way here was that it would keep getting crud into the sediment bowl inlet. And so what would happen is after a little bit of runtime, it would start getting bits of rust and dirt and stuff into it, and then it would start spitting and sputtering, and you'd have to start pulling on choke and stuff, and then you'd kind of get it back, and then pretty soon you'd be full choke and it's still spitting and sputtering. So then we had to make 2 stops on the side of the road, and what we would do is we'd take the fuel line off at the carburetor here, right there, and we'd open up the bowl, and we could see that it wasn't flowing through it very well. So then Dad would take and blow air through it with his mouth back through into the gas tank, and then when he took his mouth off of it, it would start running out nice full again. So we had that issue, and then we've got an issue up front too. It's leaking antifreeze, and I think that's possibly just that the hose clamp for the upper radiator hose, which is in there, I think that might be what's causing the issue there. So we kind of have to address that, because you can see it's leaking antifreeze all over the place here. It's actually, well, you probably can't see it, but it's sitting there dripping right now. And I don't think it was coming out of the overflow, which I can see it's not coming out of the overflow because it's dry there. But if we look, I mean, it's all wet up by the radiator hose. So that'll be something to address. We did have an issue, and you'll see in Kenny's video that this water jacket cover behind the manifold and carburetor that was leaking, that appears to have stopped. It actually wasn't leaking when we got there this afternoon, when it was sitting there before we even started it up. So I don't know if it must have solved itself somehow. I'm not really too sure how, but it got itself sealed up. So that was pretty much all we had for kind of troubles. The radiator, the fan shroud is hitting the fan every so often, depending on how things wiggle. That'll have to be a little addressed. The fan shroud probably just needs to be bent around and stuff. And we also are going to have to address the hydraulics. So right now we bypass the 2-way valves that this tractor has, because this pump is brand new on here. In case you haven't watched the Kenny videos, this pump here is brand new. And so because the old one was so chewed up, I took off that control valve back there, reservoir or control valve, whatever you want to call it, and cleaned that out. And so what we did when we ran the hoses is we just took this hose, which usually went all the way back to this fitting right here. We just sent it right back to here, right back to the reservoir, because then this hose that's on the ground currently, it used to come like this, and then this one down here went running back there. So you can kind of imagine it, but yeah, that's pretty much where we're at. We're kind of thinking about maybe putting on a whatchamacallit, hydraulic filter for this thing, so that we don't have to worry about any shavings that are in that two-way valve getting into the new pump and wrecking that. The other thought too was hook up this line here back to its original place, and then instead of putting that old hose, that hose that comes up to where this one is now, right there, have it just go into a 5-gallon pail and just kind of dump the oil out of the valve, right out of the valve, so it doesn't even go back into that reservoir, that factory reservoir. It just dumps right into the 5-gallon pail, and then whoops, you can't see anything hardly. It'll dump into that 5-gallon pail rather than going back into the reservoir, and then that kind of will wash it out essentially. So kind of, we got some decision making to do there, but for the most part, it's pretty much good to go. We just have to figure out this antifreeze leak that's going on here, and get the gas tank cleaned out, being that that's evidently got some crud in it, and yeah, that's pretty much about it. That's about all there is to say about it. It's back home. I have a well, I don't know if it's gonna get put on, but I have a International Harvester, an IH emblem that I got at the Paquette Museum down in Florida there, the Paquette IH Museum. So a little bit of Paquette's is going to live on this tractor, but other than for that, she's pretty much finished up. She's ready to, it's going to get put on the hay rake just like it used to be and start running. We got to figure out this steering up here is very stiff, so we're going to have to, I think it needs some grease is the problem there. And at some point that whatever you want to call it, steering pedestal, whatever they call it, the name is for it, eventually that's going to be off of there, because that's not the Super M's. I'm going to put, what I'll be doing is I'll take the steering wheel off of the old upper steering linkage there, and pull out the upper shaft from that pedestal, and then put it back onto the tractor here, pull this one off, remove all of that, that get rid of that part of it. Of course, the light bar and the control box and all that stays, but and then find a new, this shaft up here is actually the old style shaft. It's got and actually I can go, I'll show you here. I've got, well, I might not be able to show you now. Here, I'll show you on the 400. I'll flip the camera around. Give me a minute. So this here is the style that should be on the Super M. You can see that it has this bolt, and then on the bottom side there, where there's this little lip, there's actually a key that goes in there. You can see it's got a key slot in it, and then this bolt pinches it to the shaft. Well, I'll show you. I'm gonna walk over to Marty and I'll show you what we have on the Super M. Now that there is the style that's on the Super M. You can see it's this clamped style, and there's no what do you want to call it? No key slot. It's just got the pinch bolt, and the reason being is they have a thick washer that goes into the slot here and goes into your keyed slot. So if we walk around to the other side, this is the lower steering shaft, and it goes into this key slot here, the fat washer. So this is an early style, this shaft here, this upper shaft, and this is what the Super M has on it. And what the Super M should have on it is that style that we showed you on the 400 a minute ago. And of course, here's Marty. Marty's sitting outside. He's got some radiator trouble, and I might have to bring it to a shop, or I might even have to get a new radiator for it, which kind of sucks. But it is what it is, I guess. And that's kind of where we're at. But anyways, this video obviously isn't about Marty, it's about the Super M. But yeah, so the Super M's got the wrong steering shaft on it, and the reason being that we swapped out the steering shafts, and I'll show you, I'll walk up there and show you why. The Super M used to have a power steering unit on it, and it was kind of a cobbled up mess. So the pump that was on it was not, usually they have what they call a Charlin or a Balin system. The 400 has a Balin system on it. And now with that one, it's actually it's factory. It runs through the factory hydraulics on that tractor. But on the Letter Series, they didn't have the factory option of having live, or not live hydraulics. What do you call it? Power steering. So here is the Super M's old steering shaft. So what I was saying is, eventually I'm going to take off this steering wheel. This steering wheel is going to go on the new shaft because I want the Super M's wheel back with it. But we're going to end up putting this pedestal back on the Super M, because I think that one we have is maybe a tiny bit shorter or something. I'm not sure what the deal is, but we're going to be taking this one off, or take this shaft and put it back on the Super M. But this is where the entire problem came from. Just get this piece of cardboard out of the way. Whoever put this power steering unit on, they the way they did this was kind of funky. You can see that they've got these like collars here that fit on the shafts, and what kind of became the problem was that there just was, I mean, you've got play there, you've got play on the other side of the pump. It just got to be this thing where you've got all this play combined with play in the front tie rods of the wide front, along with play in the worm gear, that it became so much that you were constantly doing, going back and forth. But this power steering unit isn't even the right one anyways. It's off of a car or something. My dad added that filler neck there, but it's not even meant to be with any of the stuff that's here anyways. So we just completely eliminated that because it also wasn't working. It wasn't hardly, you were actually kind of working against it. But here's another example of this is what it's packed full of dirt, but it should have this style on it, the actual kind of U-joint style. Get some of that junk out of there. It should have this key slot in it, and then this actual U-joint on it. That's the later style shaft, and yeah, you can see that before the steering wheel even turns, there's just so much play. So eventually this steering pedestal is going to go back on the Super M, and that steering wheel will be back on the Super M when we get a different shaft that's the newer style shaft. But that's kind of that'll probably be a winter project sort of thing, and you have to go, now this one I won't probably have to, I'll be able to pull that bolt out, get that stuff separated, and then pull that shaft through, and why can't I keep forgetting this name? The pedestal will be free, but on any normal one, you have to pull off the steering wheel, the steering wheel, that lock collar, and then all of that shaft goes forward, and then it comes out of the pedestal. And I had a good shaft that's actually sitting in the scrap bin. The problem is I mucked up the threads that the nut that holds the steering wheel on. I mucked the threads up on that, and it kind of basically junked it. So that kind of turned into a no-go. We had to find a new one, and then the one that I bought it from a guy that I bought a bunch of parts from a while back, kind of in the spring, and that's the only one he had for an M. that was kind of completely intact, because Kenny didn't want to mess around with, you know, tearing stuff apart and whatnot. He just wanted to bolt on and go sort of thing. So I did what I had to do, kind of deal there. But that shaft will be a spare one for Marty, should Marty ever need a new one, because it's the early style. So, and the 41H here, that one has that early style too. They must have changed it out in like 42. But yeah, there we go, the Super M's. I'll let you guys quit looking at my ugly mug. The Super, whoops, wrong button, there we go. Super M is back home. Once we get that hydraulic issue figured out, we'll be putting it on the hay rake, and the fuel issue figured out. We'll be putting it on the hay rake, and it'll be going to town. But now you guys know what it sounds like. It pretty much sounds about like what it used to before it started having troubles. And okay, I'm not too sure what happened there, but like I said, I'll add a link to his channel, and then I'll try and add a link to the playlist for his for the Super M rebuild. If you guys haven't checked that out, make sure you check that out. But anyways, thanks for watching. Evidently the phone's telling me to quit yakking. And yeah, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more videos on this, because it's going to be put to work now. Now it's going to get put on the hay rake. We can take the 806 off, because the 806 is still messed up. That's kind of been the hay raking tractor, the one that needs to be fixed. But now the Super M can take over, since Marty's down too. So stay tuned for raking videos with the Super M. Stay tuned for other videos that we get, whatever we get. And yeah, there'll be a lot more to come. So thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for sticking around, and we'll talk to you guys all next time.